Okay, in our last lesson for Unit 1 for English. Okay, Unit 1 for English, Lesson 4. Lesson 5 is just one of extension lessons, so if you are unsure of anything, you can go over the 4 lessons on Friday. Okay, so what are we going to do today? We're going to understand how authors create the mood of a story to set the setting. For the setting. So understand how authors create the mood of a story through the setting. Okay, that's read up here. So in other words, how do they set the scene for you? How do they let you know what something might look like? Because most of the time you can't see it. You have to make those images in your mind through the words that the author is using. So let's look through Morris Gleitzman's Mission Impossible and look for any words or word groups that are used to show the setting in Mission Impossible. Now, let's write them down here below, and they're giving us a hint here to say that in the middle of the second page of the story, he tells us a lot about the setting. So hopefully by now you would remember you should go and have your PowerPoint version of the story up and running, and your digital version of your unit. And let's have a look on the second page halfway down. It reads, "The guests were all checked out or at the beach. Chanel and Patsy, who cleaned the units, had finished and gone. Out of order signs in Jake's neatest handwriting were on the ping pong table, the laundry, the ice machine, the swimming pool, and the crazy golf, all 3 holes. The rattly door on the cold drinks cabinet in the office was wedged firmly and silently shut with cotton buds." Alright, so there's a pretty good description of what the hotel would look like, or motel would look like. So you can write those words in here if you wish. In your digital unit there is a PowerPoint there's 2 slides or 3 slides to it. And the first one looks like this, and it's talking about the setting. And it says the setting for the Mission Impossible is a motel. We know this because the author says a motel could be a noisy place, especially when you owned it and lived in it and never got away from it. Because you can imagine if you owned a motel, that's what it would be like. You'd have to be there all the time. All the action for this story takes place at various locations within the motel grounds. So use the images on the next slide to create what you imagine the setting to look like. Add any other setting or objects if you wish. Now this is for you to cut and paste pictures that they have put in there to show how you can imagine the motel to look. Now in my mind, I was not imagining 2 stories, but there were stairs. I was imagining 1 story high, but then there are stairs. So it gives me an indication that it is more than 1 level high. There's the ping pong bats. I'm imagining those to be out in a garden near the pool. The pool is a similar look to what I imagined it to be. The car park may be a little bit bigger. So these images are just pulled out for you to imagine what the setting was like. You can add to these pictures if you like about what you think at the motel. For example, you might find a picture of putt-putt, like the crazy golf. Perhaps you go and find an out of order sign or an ice machine. Okay, they've got melted ice here, or an out of order sign. Maybe you might like to put a beach somewhere nearby in the background. Anyway, that's up to you. If not, this is plenty. They're asking you to match up here. Yeah. Okay, next thing that they're asking you to do is to match up where certain events happened around the motel, okay, in the story. So for example, many events happen in a number of locations around the motel. See if you can identify where events happen and then find some noun groups that help us learn about the setting. So when we're talking about the hotel, remember it was the quietest hotel in town. It was the off-the-highway holiday lodge, motor lodge. Okay. It had an office window. At the car park. Okay, so it's a big enough hotel or motel that there is a car park. The pool. How big was the pool? Okay, you need to go and find the pool, where it describes the pool. And what was the beach like that was there? If you can remember, he said if you walk out 3 football fields long, it's still only up to your ankles, so it's a very shallow beach. Alright, so we have things that happen. We have the families being competitive at the ping pong tables, so we know what the setting is like in the games room. We have the ant racing happening around the pool. There were kids scrambling to get on the diving board. There was cars screeching into the car park, out of order signs on the ice machines. So you're getting the vision in your mind, hopefully, of what this motel may look like. So let's see how we go. Car park. What happens in the car park? Families from 7, 8, 9 come back early from the beach. So that one there is a pool. What happens in the pool? Coastal racing ants race around the pool. Okay. Oh, look at that. See, the ping pong table. Remember what happens there? The family start getting heated up there. This is, Jake tells the group that there was a prize for the quietest family staying in the motel. 4 kids slug the ball at each other. Adults stretch out on sun lounges, not near the ping pong table. Okay, 4 kids slug the ball at each other at the ping pong table. Okay, so C. Jake tells the group that there was a prize for the quietest family staying in the motel. I think that happened down near the Crazy Golf. Two babies howling. Oh no. That happened when he was heading back to the unit. Okay, so E for that one. Oh, wrong one. I put that in the wrong section. Sorry. Adults stretch out on sun lounges under umbrella is near the pool. Jake leads a crowd of competitors and dives in is near the pool. Hopefully he doesn't dive into the ping pong table, that would hurt. Okay, so P. So a lot of the action, as you can see on there, actually comes from around the pool area is the main setting. So because a lot of the action happens around the pool, you'll probably find as you read the story, Morris Gleitzman has used some noun groups to describe what that setting looks like to the reader so they can get a good picture of what it looks like in their mind. So what's going to happen on the next page is we're going to read some information in a table and it's going to tell us a location. I'll show you here. Okay. No, it's not. It's going to tell us the noun group. Okay, a motel, which is a noisy place. And then it's your job to write on this side, if it's on the right hand side of the column, it's your job to tell us what does that tell us about the setting. Okay, a motel can be a noisy place. So if it's noisy, why is it noisy? Is it cars? Okay, it was called the off-highway motel. There's lots of people coming and going all the time, busy people, alright, who are in a hurry. So this tells the reader that the motel could be a very busy place by putting the word noisy, lots of people coming and going. What about words such as the big leather chair in the office? What does that indicate to a reader about the motel or the office itself? Okay. Does it tell us that perhaps Jake was quite small for the chair? Maybe it's quite a fancy hotel because it's got a leather chair in it. Okay, the office is big enough to have a big leather chair in it. So there's lots of ideas that one sentence can give us about the office or the setting of the office. What about this one here? This shows the number and type of facilities at the motel. It also suggests that there may be some things that need fixing. So it could be noun groups like out of order signs. That indicates that things need fixing. The number and types of facilities in the motel. Think of the description that Morris Gleitzman gave. He almost listed off the different features. So go and find that on page 2 and write that in there. What tells the reader that there is room for parking in the grounds? Right back at the very beginning, when the families from Unit 7, 8 and 9 come home and they come screeching into the car park. Okay, let's keep going. Let's try and find some more of these noun groups. This object shows that the pool is a decent size, as it wouldn't have one of these if it wasn't. Okay, so you need to go and look for the pool. Okay, look for the setting of the pool. Think about what the kids were doing and then the parents went, oh, no, don't climb on that. Okay, so if you can remember, it was a diving board. So a pool with only quite a big pool with a sizable depth would be able to have a diving board. This tells the reader the name of the motel and the reason why some people may want to stay there. Now that is written very clearly on page, I'm going to type the page for you. Okay, page 2 and 3. Okay, look for the name of the hotel and put that over here. This tells the reader that the motel is situated near a beach on the coast, which would be suitable for children. Now remember, for children you wouldn't want really rough oceans. So smooth, shallow beach is probably important to most families with young families with young children. So when Jake describes how shallow the beach is, that pretty much makes it suitable for children. And finally, the noun group sun lounges under umbrellas. Sun lounges under umbrellas. What does that tell us? Where are these characters? Near the pool. What are they doing? What is encouraged at this hotel? Okay, so just remember the details about the setting. They help the reader to almost picture it in their mind. So it's almost playing like a movie in your brain. So when you go to write your own story in Unit 2, you need to remember to describe using noun groups the setting of a place so your readers can visualize it in their mind. You don't have to go into masses of detail. Little words such as broken down, out of order signs can indicate that something's not 100% perfect. Okay, let's answer the following questions. We're nearly finished. Do the details in the previous table give the reader a good or bad feeling about the setting? List 2 details in particular that make you feel that it would be good or a bad place to stay. So what did you put on these sheets? Okay. What gives you an idea that this place would be a good or a bad place to stay? For a good one, you might like golf, you might like pools, you like the name of the hotel being the quietest place in town. You list your details here, what you believe. B, do you think that your opinion of Jake and his family would change if the setting was described as dirty and the facilities all broken? Okay, again, personal opinion. You write your answer here. Okay, think of how if the setting changed, perhaps it wasn't near the beach, perhaps it was in the middle of the city. perhaps it was described as dirty and run down. You may change your opinion based on the assumption that we're making because of the way the author's described something. What do you think the author, why do you think the author included some things in the story that were worn and broken? Right? And basically, again, your personal opinion, but why do you think they did that? Was it to show that it wasn't a brand new hotel? To show that Jake's family wasn't perfect? That's your idea there. Why do you think that the author chose a motel as a setting for this story? Again, personal opinion. Was it because it's an interesting place maybe to live? Not very many kids live in motels, so it'd be interesting for them to read about. Is it because we'd have the opportunity to introduce the crazy families that come into Jake's life? Okay, you need to think of an option there. It could be something completely different to what we've said. List one event in the story that could not happen if this was not set in a motel. Okay, so try and list one event in the story that could not happen if this was not set in a motel. Now, this is a bit of a trick question because it all starts off with Jake looking after a motel, so I don't think anything would happen like this if it wasn't set in a motel in the first place. Okay. The author has exaggerated or emphasized the details of the pool. Find two sentences that make sure that the reader knows that Jake's dad takes great care of the pool. I can remember words such as clear and sparkling. That Jake's dad was very good with pool chemicals. Hey, let's go and look on page 5 and write your 2 points here, or 2 sentences here that show or exaggerate how good Jake's dad is at looking after the pool. Once Jake had invented the quiet competition, he looks up the motel sign and imagines an exaggerated claim. What does the sign say that he imagines? Okay, look at page 12, which is the last page. And I want you to redraw the motel sign with the exaggerated claim. And if you don't like drawing, you can write it here. What was it that he was imagining the sign was saying? It wasn't the quietest hotel in town anymore. It became the quietest town in the... the quietest motel in the... Alright, and add that here. And that's it for Unit 1. Okay, very short, but it's just basically reviewing things that you have already looked at in past units from years 1 right through to year 5. And we're ready to move on to Unit 2, where we will have the opportunity to write our own stories. I'll hear you then. Bye.